The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. We're going to give people a couple minutes to filter through, but if you can write in the chat box that you can hear me okay, that would be wonderful. And I'll be back in just a minute or two. Okay, guys, we're going to go ahead and get started. Again, if you can just let me know if you can hear me, that would be awesome. Welcome to Onlife Health's webinar series presented in conjunction with HealthTrust Slice of Life program. We're your hosts, Olivia Rowe and Ashley Benningfield.
Olivia is from a small town of Pennsylvania, just outside Williamsport, the home of the Little League World Series. She graduated from Ithaca College in 2013 with a degree in television radio communications and a concentration in screenwriting. Previously, she's worked as a writing assistant in LA and was an editor of a local newspaper in Pennsylvania. Prior to joining Onlife Health in January of 2019, she worked at Pop Culture Media, an entertainment news website under CBS Interactive. Olivia currently serves as the manager of content and digital media. She loves going hiking, listening to podcasts, and spends much of her free time writing fiction and watching documentaries. Olivia considers herself a news junkie who's obsessed with pop culture trivia.
Ashley is originally from Germantown, Tennessee, right outside of Memphis. She graduated from UT Knoxville in 2004 with a bachelor's degree in dietetics. From there, she went on to complete her dietetic internship at Vanderbilt University in Nashville. Ashley is a registered dietitian technician, and she's been at OnLife for 14 years. Throughout her tenure here, she's held several positions from a health coach to a marketing content writer, and now she serves as our content and digital media specialist. A few fun facts about Ashley. OnLife Health is the only place she's ever worked. She loves cleaning and organizing, working out, and spending time with her husband and her 7-year-old son. She's also a huge Jason Aldean fan.
For those of you that have joined us before, welcome back. And for those of you who may not have had the chance to join us, welcome. We look forward to interacting with everyone today.
So today's webinar is Sleep Better, Habits to Start Now. Before we get started, just a couple of notes about the webinar. It's being recorded in a listen-only mode, and you will only be able to see the presentation. You won't be able to see either of us. You'll be able to hear us, but we can't hear you. During the last 10 to 15 minutes of the webinar, you can ask questions and answers. And at any point during the webinar, you can type any response or question that you have, and we'll try to answer as many questions or comments today as we can. We hope everyone's doing well in quarantine. Ashley and I are social distancing at the moment, so we're each in our own houses. We have practiced this a couple times, so hopefully there are no technical issues. But if you can just bear with us and let us know if you think you're having trouble hearing one or both of us. So without further ado, let's get started.
So today we'll take a look at a few statistics about sleep. We'll talk about why we need to sleep and also how much sleep we need. We'll also talk about a few of the most common sleep disorders. And finally, we'll offer some strategies for improving your sleep. And as Olivia alluded to, we will leave the last few minutes for Q&A.
So we wanted to get started by asking you just a few questions, if you're comfortable answering them. Feel free to answer them by typing your answers in the questions box like you did earlier when you responded about sound. We wanted to know, how many hours per night do you sleep? Have you recently tried any techniques to help you sleep better? And if so, what are they? And do you use any sleep apps? And if so, which ones? You just take a couple moments and respond. Some of you are saying 8 hours, 6 or 7, 8 to 9, 5 if you're lucky, yeah. Between 7 and 8. No sleep apps or techniques. Use a fan. Aromatherapy, that's a good idea. 8 hours, melatonin, We're going to talk about a lot of these things that you're mentioning in the presentation today. Someone said they stopped drinking coffee after 11. We're going to be talking about how caffeine affects your sleep. Okay, yeah, so it looks like there's a lot of variation. We're going to talk a lot about issues that people are experiencing, especially right now during quarantine. And then we'll get into a lot of other common issues as well.
So everyone knows that sleep is important, and without it, you don't have the energy to get through your day. But sleep problems that go on for a long time can affect your health. We spend so much of our lives sleeping. In fact, if you sleep 8 hours a night, that's equivalent to 1/3 of your day. That's 10 days per month and 120 days per year. So if you live to be 90 years old, you'll have spent about 30 years of your life sleeping.
Okay, so why do we sleep and how does sleep affect our health? So most adults do best when they get 7 to 8 hours of sleep each day. Sleep gives your brain a little vacation. And during this break, your brain has time to grow and repair cells, form new pathways for learning, remembering, and processing information, rebuild your energy for the next day. And although having a few sleepless nights may leave you feeling tired and grumpy, it probably won't affect your health. But when you don't sleep well night after night, you can have what's called sleep deprivation or sleep debt. And besides affecting your energy level and your mood, sleep debt affects your body in lots of other ways. So you may feel pain more easily, have mood swings, trouble learning, solving problems, and remembering. Additionally, your risk for heart disease is higher, and your immune system has a harder time fighting infection. Not getting enough sleep is linked to a number of chronic long-term diseases and conditions like diabetes, obesity, and depression. Sleep health is particularly a concern for people with chronic disabilities and disorders like arthritis, kidney disease, pain, HIV, epilepsy, Parkinson's disease, and depression. Now, among older adults, the consequences of untreated sleep disorders can decrease your health-related quality of life, contribute to functional limitations and loss of independence, and it can be associated with an increased risk of death from any cause.
So how much sleep do we need? Well, that amount varies from person to person. The average total nightly sleep time is 7.5 to 8 hours, but healthy adults can require anywhere from 4 to 10 hours. Being a short sleeper, or someone that sleeps less than 6 hours a night, is associated with poor health overall. But there's also evidence that those who are long sleepers, those that sleep more than 9 hours a night, is also associated with poor health. It's not so much the fact that sleeping more is bad for you, but it's more likely that there are underlying conditions that causes someone to sleep longer hours. The number of hours you sleep is not as important as how you feel when you wake up. If you don't feel refreshed, you probably need more sleep. Feeling tired during the daytime is another sign you're not getting enough sleep. Talk to a doctor if you are sleepy during the day and if it's getting in the way of the normal things you do. Many times, simple home treatment can help you get the sleep you need. Later in the presentation, we'll get into some tips to help you improve your sleep quality.
So, what gets in the way of sleep and why aren't we getting enough? There are a lot of reasons why this could occur. So, first, there are the everyday stressors of life, your job, your family or relationships, money problems, jet lag. This can all keep you from sleeping well. And these stresses are often temporary. When we experience stress, sleep is often the first thing to be affected. So, as I said, everyday stresses of life can be a big factor, but then there are also more severe examples of stress. So, like during this time of quarantine, many people are dealing with rapidly changing sleep habits, staying up late, not getting enough sleep, experiencing disruptive sleep, the list goes on. So, in the next slide, we're actually going to get deeper into the kinds of disrupted sleep that you are experiencing during quarantine specifically. Another sleep disruptor is physical sensations like chronic pain. Pain is the key factor in the gap between the amount of sleep that Americans say they need and the amount that they're actually getting. So there's an average of about a 42-minute sleep debt for those with chronic pain and 14 minutes for people who have suffered from acute pain in the last week. Now, those with acute or chronic pain are more likely to have sleep problems impact their daily lives, like mood, activities, relationships, and enjoyment of life overall. And then we have your internal clocks. So your circadian rhythm is basically a 24-hour internal clock that's running in the background of your brain. It cycles between sleepiness and alertness at regular intervals, and that's known as your sleep-wake cycle. This clock can fluctuate a lot as you get older, but the differences in rhythms are most noticeable in those people who are morning people and those who are night owls. Those who tend to be night owls might experience more disruptions of sleep, especially if they have to go to a job every day that requires them to get up early. So I'm going to have Ashley talk about her experiences being a morning person.
Yeah, so for me, I find it easy to wake up early in the morning. A few years ago, I started going to the gym at 4:45, but of course, right now with the COVID-19 pandemic, obviously this has been put on hold. But I had to train my body to go to bed earlier so that I could get up earlier. But prior to starting the workout class early, I would stay up late, probably like 11:30 or 12. But now my body is so used to getting up early to make that 4:45 class, it's become a habit.
And go
Yeah,
ahead.
Olivia is more of a night owl, so.
Yeah, I'm like not a morning person at all. If I get up at the same time every day, I can sort of train my body to get up earlier, but it never really feels like it's natural. So when the weekend rolls around, my body it wants to go back to those night owl tendencies, and it can be frustrating because it sort of feels like you're constantly fighting this like natural state with your body. So then when it's time to go to work again, I usually have a hard time adjusting back to it because I was up late all weekend. So you can see kind of how this can be disruptive. And the last thing on this list is health. So sleep is obviously very important for our health, but it also goes the other way as well. So when we're sick, that can negatively impact our sleep. And then health issues like obesity and sleep apnea can also have a big impact on sleep. And we're going to get into some of these issues later in the presentation.
Issues with sleep disruption are very common during this time of COVID-19. In fact, the use of anti-insomnia, anti-anxiety, and antidepressant medications have spiked by 21% between February and March of this year. The numbers peaked during the week of March 15th, which is when the World Health Organization declared COVID-19 a pandemic, and when the United States declared a national emergency in response to it. So naturally, anxiety levels during this time are high, which leads to fragmented sleep and unusual sleep schedules. The pandemic has economic, health, and social impacts for everyone, which can influence the way we sleep. Heightened anxiety associated with concern about our health and our loved ones, along with financial distress and job loss, are likely major factors. Along with anxiety related to coronavirus, an abrupt change in your daily activities, routine, and social isolation may also contribute to changes in sleep patterns. While some people are sleeping more now that they don't have to get up at a certain time every day, most are reporting poor or less sleep than usual. For those who already suffer from insomnia, for example, the pandemic may make those issues worse while triggering new insomnia in other people. If you can fall asleep without too much trouble at bedtime, but wake up frequently throughout the night, you're experiencing sleep fragmentation, which is often caused by major stress as well. And many people have also reported vivid dreams or disturbing nightmares. These are closely linked to waking up from REM sleep frequently throughout the night. Waking up from this deep sleep will lead you to remember the dreams more. And stress also likely plays a role here. So it might not actually be that you're having more disturbing dreams, it's just that you're remembering them more because you're waking more often throughout the night. And staying up later than normal is also very common, particularly as it becomes harder to get into a routine.
So this is a personal story from me personally. So the first like month to 6 weeks of quarantine, I would say that I stayed up really late. I mean, we're talking 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m., sometimes 6 a.m. And there are differing reasons why people are staying up late, extra late during this time. But for me, I was up late watching TV. And it wasn't even necessarily that I had insomnia. I wasn't really trying to go to sleep. It was just that I was watching a lot of TV, and TV is a coping mechanism that I have, especially just to kind of deal with all the craziness that's going on. So thankfully, I've since stabilized my sleeping schedule since we've gotten it back down to like 1 or 2 a.m. Sometimes 3 on the weekends, but I'm definitely getting much more sleep than I was 3 or 4 weeks ago. But just know that it's like really common for this to happen, and it's really common for sleep schedules to fluctuate during really intense times of stress, kind of like now. So now we're going to get into some common sleep disorders. Now, there are some medical conditions that can cause sleep problems that last a long time. And one of the most common ones is narcolepsy. And this is a sleep disorder that has really distinct symptoms. And they include sudden sleep attacks, which may occur during any type of activity, any time of day. You might fall asleep while doing an activity like eating dinner, driving your car, or even just talking. And these sleep attacks can occur several times a day, and they might last from a few minutes to several hours. You may also experience sudden brief periods of muscle weakness while you are awake. And this weakness may affect specific muscle groups or your entire body. It's often brought on by strong emotional reactions like laughing or crying. And then there are hallucinations that you might experience just before a sleep attack. And then also the brief loss of the ability to move when you're falling asleep or just waking up. And that's known as sleep paralysis. Another common sleep disorder is parasomnia. And this is marked by undesirable physical activities that occur during sleep that involve muscle activity, nervous system changes, or both. So examples of parasomnias might be night terrors and sleepwalking. This can cause like odd, distressing, and sometimes dangerous nighttime activities. And while you're, quote, asleep, a person with parasomnia might walk, scream, even rearrange furniture, eat odd foods, or even pick up a weapon. Now, these disorders, they do have medically explainable causes, and they're usually treatable, but it does make sleep hard for those who experience these issues. And then we have restless leg syndrome. This is a condition that produces an intense feeling of discomfort, aching, or twitching deep inside the legs. Jerking movements might affect your toes, ankles, knees, and hips. Moving the legs or walking around usually relieves the discomfort for a short time. The exact cause of restless leg syndrome is not known. Those symptoms most often occur when a person is asleep or they're trying to fall asleep. And the twitching or the jerking movements might wake them up, cause insomnia, unrestful sleep, and daytime sleepiness.
One of the most common sleep disorders is sleep apnea, which means your breathing is briefly and repeatedly interrupted during sleep. And the word apnea refers to a pause in breathing that lasts at least 10 seconds. So the most common type of sleep apnea is obstructive sleep apnea. This occurs when the airways in your nose, mouth, or throat become blocked. And the airways can become blocked when your throat muscles and your tongue relax during sleep. Sleep apnea can also occur if you have large tonsils or adenoids. And during the day when you are awake and you're standing up, these may not cause problems. But when you lie down at night, they can press down on your airway, narrowing it and cause sleep apnea. And this actually happened with my son when he was about 3 years old. And we had noticed that despite the fact that he was getting what seemed to be a good night's sleep, he was still hyper and often restless. Well, one day I picked him up from school and his daycare teacher had told me that he had stopped breathing a couple of times while he was napping. We immediately took him to the ENT the next day, and sure enough, they said his tonsils and adenoids were so large that they were taking up 80% of his throat. And so we had them removed, and he was like a new child the next day. So episodes of sleep apnea usually end with the person waking briefly in order to reopen their airway. The tissue in the airway vibrates in and out, which is why those with sleep apnea often snore loudly between episodes. They can also gasp and choke. They may experience many interruptions in their sleep, and this leads to a lot of sleepiness during the day. So if you wake up with morning headaches or wake up gasping for air during the night, that can be an indication of sleep apnea. And it's definitely a reason to talk to your doctor to see if a sleep study is warranted. As far as treatment for sleep apnea, a CPAP machine may be required. CPAP stands for continuous positive airway pressure, and this machine uses a hose and mask or a nose piece to deliver constant and steady air pressure.
And we have insomnia, which is pretty common. And this is the medical term basically for having trouble falling asleep or staying asleep. It can mean a few different things. It can mean trouble falling asleep, so for more than 45 minutes. Frequent awakenings with the inability to fall back asleep. Abnormal early morning awakening, and feeling very tired after a full night's sleep. So it's important to note that insomnia isn't necessarily a problem unless it makes you feel tired during the day. If you are less sleepy at night or you wake up early, but you still feel rested and alert, there's not really a need to worry. And there are different types of insomnia depending on the situation. First, there's occasional insomnia, which can be caused by noise, extreme temperatures, jet lag, changes in your sleep environment, or a change in your sleep pattern, such as shift work. Insomnia may also be caused by short-term, temporary, or situational life stresses, like a traumatic event or an impending deadline. In this case, your insomnia is likely to go away when the cause of your sleep problem goes away. And then we have long-term insomnia, which might last months or even years, and this can be caused by advancing age. Insomnia usually happens more frequently in adults who are over the age of 60. Mental health problems like anxiety, depression, or mania. Medicines, there are many prescription and non-prescription medications that can cause sleep problems. Chronic pain, which often develops after a major injury or illness like shingles or back problems. Other problems that interrupt your sleep like asthma, coronary artery disease, or menopause. Alcohol and illegal drug use or withdrawal, and cigarettes and other tobacco use. Now, there are many different treatment options that you can try to relieve insomnia. So first is behavioral therapy, which is offered usually by a psychologist or a counselor with specialized training. And several visits to the therapist are usually required to learn and implement the techniques of therapies. And there are a couple of different behavioral approaches, and they include stimulus control. And this trains people to use their bed and their bedroom for sleep and intimacy only. People with insomnia are encouraged to go to another room and engage in a relaxing activity until they're sleepy and ready to return to bed. Cognitive therapy, which is conducted with a therapist who helps the patient with attitudes and beliefs that may contribute to poor sleep. And then we have relaxation training, which often involves reducing tension and muscular relaxation techniques. And then there are many over-the-counter or prescription sleep aids that might help with insomnia. The medications differ by dose and duration of action, but most people take sleep aids a few nights or a few weeks at a time. So there's a ton of different options, so you definitely want to talk to your healthcare provider about which treatment could be best for you.
So now that we've gotten into some common sleep issues that affect many people, we wanted to offer some solutions to help you sleep better at night. One of the most underrated ways to improve your sleep is to stick to the same sleep schedule every day, or as close as you can manage. And consistency is the key, even on the weekends. So for example, if you get up at 7 a.m. every day to go to work, try to wake up at that same time on the weekends. And the same goes for bedtimes. Doing this helps regulate your body's clock and can help you fall asleep and stay asleep for the entire night. So even if you feel like your body's natural rhythm is suited for a different time, eventually your body will adjust to the new wake and bedtime schedule, just as long as you're consistent. And the best way to adjust to a new sleep schedule is to make gradual changes until you've reached your optimal bed and waking time. For example, if you're trying to go to sleep at 10 p.m. rather than midnight, try going to bed at 11:45 for the first 3 or 4 nights, and then go to bed at 11:30 for the next few days. And keep adjusting your sleep schedule like this. And by working in these 15-minute increments, your body will have an easier time adjusting.
So another strategy to help improve your sleep is to limit your alcohol consumption. So alcohol is actually the most common drug that people use to help them fall asleep. And while it does help you fall asleep faster, the alcohol metabolization that happens in your body creates shallow, poor quality sleep. So yeah, you might fall asleep faster, but you pay the price the rest of the night with poor quality sleep. So to combat this, it's recommended that you don't drink alcohol late in the evening, too close to bedtime.
Limiting your caffeine intake is another strategy that can help improve your sleep. And while alcohol acts as a depressant, caffeine acts as a stimulant. It works by blocking a chemical in the brain known as adenosine. And this is what is responsible for helping us feel sleepy. The longer you're awake, the more adenosine builds up in your brain. When caffeine is blocking the adenosine, we're not really feeling that sleepy effect that we need to help us fall asleep. Normally, adenosine levels rise over the course of the day along with our sleep drive, but blocking adenosine prevents sleepiness and prevents falling asleep. The peak effects of caffeine are seen within 30 to 60 minutes of consumption, but the effects can linger for up to 12 hours. And different people have different caffeine sensitivities, which is why you may know someone who doesn't like to drink coffee in the afternoon. But on the other opposite end of the spectrum, you may know someone else who can have coffee at night and not experience any effects and go to bed just fine.
So nicotine is also a stimulant, and people tend to think that it relaxes them, but the side effects can cause insomnia and withdrawal symptoms, just like caffeine. Smoking can also create other sleep disturbances. Research has shown that smokers spend more time sleeping lightly and less time in deep sleep than non-smokers do. The biggest differences are found early in your night's sleep, corresponding to the time when the highest levels of nicotine are present in a smoker's blood. Scientists also think that smokers may have withdrawal symptoms closer to the morning, and that could also contribute to sleep problems.
The next strategy we want to mention is controlling your exposure to light. So melatonin is a naturally occurring hormone controlled by light exposure that helps regulate your sleep-wake cycle. Your brain makes more melatonin when it's dark, making you sleepy, and less when it's light, which makes you more alert. So there are many factors that can alter your body's production of melatonin and shift your circadian rhythm. So here are a few ways you can influence your light exposure. During the day, expose yourself to bright sunlight in the morning. The closer to the time you get up, the better. So have your coffee outside, for example, or eat breakfast by a sunny window. The light on your face will help you wake up. You can spend more time outside during the daylight. Take your work breaks outside, exercise outside, or walk your dog during the day instead of at night. Also, let as much natural light into your home or workspace as possible. Keep the curtains and blinds open during the day and try to move your desk closer to the window if you can. If necessary, you can use a light therapy box. This simulates sunshine and can be especially useful for those short winter days. So light in the evening can be a problem, specifically the blue-green light. To help control your exposure to light during the evening, you can avoid bright screens within 1 to 2 hours of your bedtime. It's the blue light that's emitted by your phone, tablet, computer, or TV that can be especially disruptive. You can lessen the impact by using devices with smaller screens, turning the brightness down, or using light-altering software such as Flux. And when it's time to sleep, make sure the room is dark. Use heavy curtains or shades to block light from windows, or try a sleep mask. And keep the lights down if you get up during the night. If you need some light to move around safely, try installing a dim nightlight in the hall or the bathroom, or use a small flashlight. This will make it easier for you to fall back asleep. So maximize the light in the morning and minimize it in the evening. This doesn't mean that you have to sit in a dark room before you go to bed, but you do want to limit light exposure approximately 1 to 2 hours before bedtime.
So naps can also be really helpful. Napping during the day is kind of like snacking between meals. If you have a large snack, you won't be as hungry at your next meal. So if you nap a long time during the day, you won't be as tired when it's time to go to bed. But just like a light snack is fine between meals, so is a short nap. So you want to keep your nap brief, like a power nap, and limit it to about 20 to 30 minutes. Sleeping for this short time can make you more alert and energetic. And this might be critical to your work or school productivity, or to your ability to take care of a child during the day. Most people feel refreshed after a nap that lasts about 20 minutes. Longer naps can leave you feeling groggy because they require waking up from a deeper sleep. Try not to nap too late in the day. It's also important because this can interfere with your bedtime and make it hard to fall asleep at night. If you need to nap, aim to keep it between 2 and 3 p.m. if possible, when your energy levels start to dwindle.
So we tend to think of the bed as a place for sleep, but people do a lot more things in bed than sleep. For example, people eat in the bed, they play on their phones in the bed, all kinds of things that have nothing to do with sleep. And as a result, our body doesn't know what's supposed to happen when you get into bed. So as previously mentioned, your bed should be kept for 2 things, sleep and intimacy. Ideally, we should be doing everything else outside of the bed, specifically the worrying and the thinking. It's these things that can really become problematic for some of us. You may say, my mind is calm until I get in the bed, and then I start to think and my mind wanders and I can't sleep. This is a sign that you're spending so much time in the bed thinking and worrying that your mind has actually made that connection. So we want to avoid activities that might keep us from a good night's sleep. Don't read, watch television, or do work in bed. Instead, substitute reading or listening to relaxing music. You want to be sure your bed is big enough to stretch out comfortably, especially if you have a sleep partner. You can use earplugs or sleep in a different room if your partner's snoring keeps you awake. But if you notice that your partner is sleeping on their back, you can turn them to their side. This may help your partner stop snoring. You may also want to encourage your partner to see a doctor to find out what may be causing their snoring. Reduce the noise in the house or mask it with a steady low noise, such as a fan on slow speed or even a radio tuned to static. Keep the room cool and dark. And if you're a clock watcher and watching the clock makes you anxious about sleeping, you can turn it around or put it in a drawer so that you can't see it. Use a pillow and a mattress that are comfortable for you. And consider making your bed off limits to your children and your pets. Their sleep patterns may be different from your own and can affect your sleep. And you don't want to lie in bed awake for too long. If you can't fall asleep, or if you wake up in the middle of the night and can't get back to sleep within 15 minutes or so, get out of bed and go to another room until you feel sleepy.
So another strategy you can use to help yourself sleep better is, any various relaxation techniques. So it could be deep breathing, guided imagery, meditation, progressive muscle relaxation, and certain types of yoga. By incorporating these techniques, you can sort of actively slow down and reduce tension of mental activity. So your thoughts, feelings, and your emotions. Learn 1 or 2 techniques you can use to relax. Search YouTube for relaxation videos and experiment with these techniques and find the one that works best for you. Practice them before you get into bed at night or if you wake up in the middle of the night.
Next, we'll talk about some sleep apps. So we know that a lack of quality sleep can lead to all sorts of health problems, like trouble concentrating, mood swings, a weakened immune system, and weight gain. So if you're struggling to catch some Z's, don't worry, there's an app for that. In fact, there are so many sleep apps out there that can be hard to figure out which ones are worth a try. Whether you want to drift off to sweet sounds of nature or white noise, or even listen to a bedtime story, there's an app for you. So we put together a list of some of the top sleep apps. The first one is Headspace. It's available for iOS and Android, and there is a free and paid version. The free version offers sleepcasts, which are basically 45 to 55-minute long audio experiences that help you visualize calming experiences. It's kind of like a grown-up version of a bedtime story. For example, these visualizations include things like walking through a garden or listening to a slow-moving train. The cost is free for select content, but you can upgrade to the paid version, which gives you access to over 40 themed meditation courses. The next one is sleep cycle. Normally, you set your alarm clock for a specific time, and you can be jolted awake at any point during your sleep cycle, and this can make it hard to fully wake up. But Sleep Cycle monitors your sleep with sound analysis through your phone, and it has an alarm clock that gently wakes you up when you're in your lightest sleep phase, which allows you to wake up feeling refreshed. This app allows you to look back at your sleep quality and compare it to that of other users, and track what might be causing your restlessness. It's available for both iOS and Android, and there is a free or premium version. The next one is Relax Melodies. This one allows you to combine sounds and melodies with guided meditations and brainwave beats to help you unwind. Relax Melodies offers over 100 soothing sounds, so you'll never get bored. There's so many sound combinations you can create. Again, it's available for both iOS and Android, and it's free. White Noise allows you to cycle through 40 sounds or combine several together to help you sleep better, from crashing waves to wind blowing. It's super easy to use. It's available for both iOS and Android, and there's a free and paid version. And finally, if you like to meditate, Calm is the app for you. Meditation is a great way to de-stress before bed, and this app makes it super easy. There is a sleep story section that has bedtime stories read aloud by people with soothing voices, including celebrities like Matthew McConaughey. Only a few stories are included for free, but if you upgrade to the full version, you have access to more than 120 sleep stories and meditations. There's also soothing music and guided lessons on gentle movements that will relax your body. And Calm is available for both iOS and Android, and there's a free and paid version. It's important to keep in mind that no sleep tracker is 100% accurate. So if you're really struggling with your sleep, you may need to see a dedicated sleep specialist.
So be sure to log into your secure account on HealthTrust Secure Enrollee portal and click the Onlife Health button. There you can find lots of resources relating to today's topic. And for your reference, we have a list of organizations and their websites that contain information on sleep. We made this information available in a handout. You can access the document on your control panel. From there, you can download it. But if you have any trouble accessing the document or you can't find it, feel free to email me, Olivia. My email address should have already been listed on a few of the previous emails about the webinar that you received, but it will also be on the follow-up email you'll be receiving. The follow-up email will come to you, I think in about 2 days. You should get it by Friday. And on the email, there'll actually be a recording of this whole presentation. So if you want to watch it again or share it with anyone, you'll have that option. So now we want to hear from you. We want to know what's one new thing you learned. You can type your responses in the box, and then we will get on to questions after that. So Leonard, is asking, what about the value of daily exercise help with the sleep cycle? Yeah, for sure. Exercise, I think, has a big impact on sleeping. Personally, I find I usually am able to exercise almost every day. I find that it helps me, um, I would say, get tired more easily. Ashley likes to work out in the morning, and I think that helps her with her energy levels throughout the day. I'm kind of the opposite. I think it works better for me personally to work out towards the end of the day, like around like between like 4 and 8 o'clock, because exercise in a really good way tends to like tire me out and helps me sleep better and regulate my schedule. So yeah, exercise for sure is a great way to try to regulate your sleep cycle, and you can kind of play around with where it works best in your schedule for you, whether it's in the morning so you can be more alert, or if it's at night. Lauren said she didn't realize there were so many sleep apps. Yeah, there are a ton out there.
Yes, we only just covered, 5 of them. There's so many out there.
Yeah, there's a ton. Learned how much coffee has an effect on sleep. Yeah, it's kind of crazy because I think it can, it's not even necessarily that you might have an awareness of it. Like maybe you had coffee at like 7 o'clock and you find yourself waking up throughout the night and you're like, oh, I wonder why I'm waking up throughout the night. And it could actually be because of the coffee that you had at, 6 or 7 o'clock. So I think there are kind of these side effects that we're not always aware of that are causing these sleep problems. I didn't know alcohol played a role in restless sleep. Yeah.
Mhm.
I like the options for sleep apps. Reading in bed helps me. Yeah, that can be good. Reading in bed can be helpful for some people. And then some people reading in bed might not be a good option for. So I think whatever works for you. Yeah, someone's asking if it's not okay to read in bed. So like all of these are kind of especially specific suggestions like those. Like I am definitely guilty of like looking at my phone in bed, I'm not gonna lie. Especially before bed and when I get up in the morning. But I have like a blue light filter on my phone. So it turns on between the hours of like 7 p.m. and 7 a.m. So that's helping with the light. It still probably is not great that I'm looking at my phone in bed. But I don't really find that it affects my sleep, at least that I'm aware of. I'm able to sleep like 8 or 9 hours a night without an issue. So I mean, if reading in bed works for you, then I think continue to do that. But if you're reading in bed and then you can't fall asleep because maybe you're thinking about what you're reading, then maybe try not to do that. But I think suggestions like those are, you just kind of have to figure out what works best for you.
So I'm not sure if this is an iPhone thing across the board, but I have the iPhone XR, and if you go under your settings and go to display and brightness, there's actually a setting that you can change the appearance to light and dark. So, and then you can also tone down the display. So that might be something that some of you might want to try. And you can set a schedule for it. Like mine goes off at 10 and it turns back on at 6. So it's dark between the hours of 10 and 6. So might be worth a try.
Some people are asking questions, so feel free if you have a question to put it in the box. We have like 15 minutes left, and it looks like we have quite a few questions. So I'm going to try to get to as many as we can. So I think someone earlier asked if it's possible to have more than one condition. I think they were asking specifically about restless leg syndrome and insomnia. So yeah, you can suffer from more than one, especially like restless leg syndrome can cause insomnia. And it's not to say that like it has to do that or that your insomnia is necessarily from restless leg syndrome, but you can certainly experience more than one sleep problems for sure. Sorry, I'm just getting through, just reading some of your questions here. You guys are asking really great things. I am doing most of these things and still waking up several times a night. I believe it's due to the anxiety over the uncertainty of the situation. Any suggestions? Yeah, that's hard. I think a lot of people are in the same boat. So you said you're already doing some of these things because I was going to suggest meditation only because I find that personally it sort of helps like not let the thoughts, the anxious thoughts kind of overwhelm you. So I think if you're trying a lot of these things and it's not helping, then if you're able to maybe talk to your doctor, I know it's not maybe necessarily everyone's personal choice to go to the doctor right now, but a lot of providers are doing like telemedicine. So if you're able to talk to your doctor a different way, they might be able to talk to you or prescribe you something if you're comfortable with that. Because I think if you're already doing a lot of these things, it might be time to talk to someone else. I fall asleep just fine, but wake up at 2, 4, 5, but you can't get more than 5 hours total. Yeah. If you're able to, like when you wake up at those hours, to try like some deep breathing. Some of those more like psychological kind of exercises might be beneficial, especially if, excuse me, you're kind of waking up at those random times. What about medications, both over the counter and prescription? So obviously there's melatonin, which is obviously like a natural thing that can help some people fall asleep. I don't know of any, like, I can't speak to any specific ones. Definitely something that you should talk to your doctor about, but there are a lot of options. So you can do some research and then also talk to your doctor.
Mhm.
How about getting back to sleep after using the bathroom in the night? Yeah, that can be really hard. I usually just like try to, like, if possible, not turn on any lights because I find that that is like the biggest way for me to get awake is if I have a light on. So even though I'm kind of like stumbling to the bathroom, I think it's the most helpful if you're able to like kind of not turn on a light or have like a small like nightlight or something that gives you enough light that you can see but not completely wake up. I don't know, Ashley, what do you think?
I agree. Yes. I keep a little nightlight in my bathroom at my house. And again, the pet thing too can definitely disrupt your sleep. Like I have a little Yorkie and she sleeps with me and sometimes she'll wake me up in the middle of the night to go out. And it might be 3:30 or it might be 6:30 when I'm getting ready to get up anyway. So it's kind of, it goes back to, what works for you, but keep in mind that pets and also, as we mentioned, children, their sleep habits differ from yours. So it can be hard to get back to sleep.
Someone is asking about the types of sleep, REM, deep, light, and what you need of each. So I think this is something, again, that kind of varies for person to person. I think there is kind of like a standard. I don't have the numbers like off the top of my head. So I think Cynthia is asking this question. So Cynthia, I'm going to send you an email maybe later with some of this information, only because I don't have it at my fingertips. If that's
And
something
there,
you're interested in. Because I think it does vary. Because like obviously the general recommendation for total sleep is usually between like 6 to 8 hours. But in terms of like breaking that down into like REM sleep and light sleep, I'm not really sure how that's broken down. Reading your questions. Someone else is asking about deep sleep. So someone is saying that their Fitbit records their sleep and they says they usually don't get more than 2 hours of deep sleep. So I think it's important that you like not get hung up on the number. I think if you are waking up and you're very tired in the morning, then maybe that's something you should explore. But if you're using an app and it's telling you that you're only getting like an hour of deep sleep a night, but you wake up and you feel good, you don't really feel that tired. As we mentioned, there is kind of like room for error with these apps. I know Ashley, I think she uses a Fitbit and sometimes the recording of her sleep isn't totally accurate. Isn't that right, Ashley?
yes, and sometimes it gives me more anxiety than I had before. So like for last night, it says that I was awake for 55 minutes, REM sleep for 38 minutes, light sleep 4 hours and 56 minutes, and deep sleep for 40 minutes. However, I went to bed at 10:30 and I didn't get up till 8. So I'm not sure how that works.
And do you feel like tired today, or do you feel like
No,
mostly rested?
I feel normal. I mean, I feel fine.
Okay.
And again, like if you're wearing your Fitbit too tight, or, not tight enough, that can all play a role in um, the feedback or the app numbers. So it can, to me, it can cause more anxiety than what I had before because I'm so focused on getting that number. And if I don't meet my goal, then I get, anxiety.
Yeah, so I think it's important to know that like those kinds of apps are like great, but they're not going to always be 100% accurate. So again, I would base it on how you feel. If you feel tired in the morning or that you don't feel like you slept enough, then maybe that's when you should look into different techniques or talking to your doctor. But if it's saying that you got really little sleep and you feel fine, then I wouldn't worry about it. Is it safe to take melatonin? Like generally, yes, but again, probably should talk to your doctor. I think I'm not a doctor, so I think that there are probably instances maybe where melatonin can affect certain medications if you're taking them, and then obviously like dosage just depends on the person. Um, but I mean, generally, it is safe, yes. The person who is struggling with the current situation could limit her exposure to news. Yes, I have found that to be very helpful. Um,
Yes.
it's like life changing. Honestly, I was reading the news a lot before bed, and I think that was part of the reason why I was staying up. In general, I am very into the news, so it's very hard for me to turn it off. But I find that like not reading it after like 5 p.m. is really good, and there are some days where I try to just not read it at all. Um, so I think for sure that limiting your exposure to news is going to be very helpful. Someone said they used to wake up with numbness when their elbow is bent and their hand is under their head or pillow. Their circulation and their nerves are compressed, so they use a body pillow to align their arms better and support their head, so the sensations don't wake me up anymore. That's a great idea. I should do that. I
I should do
what are you saying, Ashley?
I said I should do that too. I wake up all the time with my, especially my left one, like it's asleep. My hands asleep, my arms asleep, everything.
Yeah, same. I sleep with a really flat pillow. I don't really like a lot of like fluff in my pillow, and I usually like have my hands kind of like shoved under it. So I usually wake up in the middle of the night and my arm's tingling and I can't feel it. So I hear that. That's a good idea. Um, I've been using a long-term sleep medication. Still on a good night, get 6 to 7 hours. Could this be because of my long-term cancer treatments, like over 10 years? Um, So I'm not sure. Um, 6 to 7 hours. Like, are you saying that you don't think that's because like 6 to 7 hours is like okay? I mean, it can be like completely fine for a lot of people. So again, are you feeling tired in the morning? If you feel well rested, then um, I think that's fine. Um, I usually need a little bit more sleep, like between 8 or 9 hours. But there are some people who can function on less. So again, I think if it's working for you and you don't feel tired, then I think it's okay. But if you still feel tired, then it might be time to um, talk to your doctor. Someone suggested that sleepy time tea is helpful. I've heard that. I'm a tea drinker myself. I don't drink sleepy time tea, but um, that's a good idea. A couple of you have asked about addictions or reliances on sleep medication. That's not a question I'm able to answer or really talk about. Um, so again, if you are concerned about the efficacy of sleep medications or reliances or dependencies on them, definitely talk to a professional healthcare provider. Aromatherapy and essential oils, I have heard those are great for certain people as well. I've never used them myself. Ashley, have you?
Have not.
Okay.
Have not.
Someone is saying that restless leg syndrome, if you suffer from it, you should check out the RLS Foundation at rls.org, and there's a lot of good information there to help with this condition. So thank you, Sue, for that suggestion. rls.org for more information on restless leg syndrome. Tylenol PM or ibuprofen PM to help sleep at night. Again, I don't know that it's recommended to use that every day. It could be. Again, it's something you should talk to your doctor about, because I'm honestly not sure about that. Have either of you ever used a sleep mask? And if so, does it take getting used to? Okay, yes. So I actually do use a sleep mask. I use one over my eyes, because I'm very sensitive to light in the morning, and um, the blinds and the curtains usually don't filter it out enough. So I do use one. It does take a little bit of getting used to. Sometimes I wake up in the morning and it's like on my forehead or something, and it's not completely over my eyes, or I've taken it off. So it is very normal to kind of, it does, I think, take some adjusting for sure. But I like it overall. I find it very helpful, especially when I'm traveling. Different houses or different hotel rooms or whatever have sort of different setups. So you can't always control that. So it's nice to kind of have something. So we're actually out of time. I don't know that I think this might cut us off on the hour. So we have to say goodbye. There's a lot of questions we didn't get to. So if you have more, please email me, and I will try to answer them for you. Again, you will be getting a recording of all of this. We hope you join us for the next webinar. That is in August, and it's on happiness, so it should be a fun topic. So we hope that you join us, and we wanted to thank HealthTrust and all of you for joining us today. And Ashley, you want to say goodbye?
Yes, goodbye.
Have a great
Thank you so much for being in.
We will talk to you guys later. Bye.
Bye.